plane crashes in Brazil's São Paulo state, all 61 on board killed. Even while the aircraft industry is remarkably safe, it is not immune to accidents that might have catastrophic consequences. In São Paulo state, Brazil, a plane crash happened, which led to the loss of all 61 lives on board. This tragedy is considered to be one of the most terrible events that has ever taken place. An in-depth analysis of the collision, including its causes, the damages that were caused, and the individuals who were accountable for the occurrence, is presented in this article. Overview of the incident. A plane that was being flown by an airline took off from its departure location and was en route to its destination at the time of the event. A catastrophic failure occurred by the aircraft shortly after takeoff at a height of several thousand feet. The aircraft then crashed into the landscape. In the state of São Paulo, a loud explosion was heard by witnesses, and then plumes of smoke were seen rising from the location of the collision. However, despite the speed with which emergency personnel arrived, it was determined that all 61 passengers and crew members had passed away. The intense severity of the collision was demonstrated by the fact that the wreckage was dispersed across a large area. The ATR-72 aircraft was seen in a video that was shared on social media to be spinning out of control as it descended behind a group of trees close to houses, which was then followed by a big plume of black smoke. Daniel de Lima, a resident of the neighborhood, stated that he heard a loud bang and then looked out the window of his apartment in Vinhedo, where he saw the jet performing a horizontal spiral. It was rotating, but it wasn't moving forward, he said in an interview with Reuters. Soon after, it fell out of the sky and exploded, as a result of the plane crashing into the backyard of a property in the local condominium complex. Officials from the city of Valinhos, which is located close to Vinhedo, stated that the home had sustained damage. Not a single resident sustained any injuries. I almost believe the pilot tried to avoid a nearby neighborhood, which is densely populated, De Lima said to reporters. The peculiar final circular motion that the jet made before it crashed into the grounds sparked great curiosity among aviation professionals. This led some individuals to assume that ice had accumulated on the plane, or that it had experienced engine failure. However, investigators stated that it was too early to pinpoint the reason for the incident. The factors that led to the impact. 1. Failure of the mechanical system. The investigators concentrated their attention on the possibility of mechanical breakdowns, particularly in the aircraft systems. In the beginning, there were indications that there could be failures, such as the engine failing or the control system malfunctioning. It was possible to extract the flight data recorder as well as the cockpit voice recorder, which provided us with essential information regarding the final moments of the aircraft. Mechanical concerns were indicated by the preliminary study. 2. Error during piloting. The pilot's method of decision-making was subjected to close examination. In addition to conducting pre-flight inspections, investigators attempted to determine whether or not the crew had adhered to standard operating procedures satisfactorily. It's possible that pilot error was caused by several factors, including stress, insufficient training, or the ability to make decisions while under pressure. According to the reports, the pilot was responsible for the accident. 3. The conditions of the weather. On the day of the accident, the weather reports predicted stormy conditions. Unfavorable weather conditions can have a substantial impact on flight safety. The investigators looked into whether or not the crew had conducted an accurate assessment of the weather circumstances, and whether or not they had complied with the standards that govern flight in adverse weather conditions. Compliance with regulatory criteria. In addition, the examination looked into whether or not the airline had followed the aviation regulations that were established by the National Civil Aviation Agency ANAC of Brazil. Among the problems that were found were possible breaches in maintenance schedules, pilot training, and safety standards, all of which could have had a role in the accident. Damages resulting from the accident. 1. Damage relating to aircraft. As a result of the impact, the aircraft was completely destroyed, and debris was dispersed across a large region. Damage was consistent with a high-impact collision, as evidenced by the considerable fragmentation of the fuselage and wings after the collision. 2. The implications for the environment. The location of the crash site was described as being near residential areas, which led to worries regarding the possibility of environmental contamination caused by aviation fuel and other hazardous chemicals. 3. Casualties. Every one of the 61 people who were on board, including crew members and passengers, were killed in the tragedy. Families and towns were left in utter disarray as a result of the catastrophe. which prompted widespread sorrow. 4. The repercussions for the economy. There were major financial repercussions for the airline, including the possibility of lawsuits being filed by the families of the dead, as well as costs involved with the investigation and recovery attempts. In addition, this tragedy gave rise to concerns regarding the future operations of the airline as well as its reputation. Responsibility and accountability in the workplace. 1. The responsibility of the airline. It was determined that the airline's maintenance and operational procedures were subject to inspection. The maintenance schedules, training processes, and safety rules that were mandated by the ANAC were evaluated by the investigators to determine whether or not the airline complied with them. 2. Accountability of the pilot and crew. All of the actions taken by the pilot and the crew were scrutinized in great detail. Evaluations were conducted on a variety of factors, including training, experience, and adherence to safety regulations. It would be possible to hold the crew partially liable if negligence or a lack of training was discovered. 3. Oversight of regulatory bodies. During the examination, concerns were raised regarding the efficiency of regulatory monitoring in the Brazilian aviation industry. There have been calls for aviation safety laws to be reformed and enforced more strictly to prevent disasters of a similar nature from occurring in the future. 4. The influence on aviation policy. Due to the fact that this incident brought to light the necessity of enhancing safety standards in Brazilian aviation, debates have taken place on the implementation of more stringent laws, improved pilot training programs, and more stringent maintenance checks. Concluding remarks. The unfortunate plane crash that occurred in the state of São Paulo serves as a melancholy reminder of the possible dangers that are associated with air travel. Because all 61 lives were lost, the incident highlights the necessity of continuous advances in aviation safety, compliance with regulatory requirements, and pilot training. While investigations are still ongoing and lessons are being learned, the aviation community needs to pay tribute to the memory of those who have passed away by taking measures to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Beyond the immediate loss of life, this accident has caused a reevaluation of safety practices in Brazil's aviation industry to protect future tourists. This is because the impact of this disaster extends beyond the immediate loss of life. Recognizing and honoring. The victims of the accident were honored with memorial ceremonies that were held in the aftermath of the accident. Family members, friends, and members of the community gathered together to remember and respect those who had passed away. It was emphasized that compassion and understanding are necessary in the face of such a loss, and support services were made available to families to assist them in learning how to cope with their grief. It is necessary for the Brazilian government, airlines, and the community to work together in order to prevent future mishaps and make certain that every flight is as safe as it can possibly be. This is because Brazil is currently navigating the difficulties of improving aviation safety. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to our channel for more.